hung my keys on the hook by the door. I could look back, but there's nothing to see anymore. Plus there's nothing to gain from looking behind. Once you've made up your mind, I'm holding on to hope. Pulled off of the road, trying to fend off the sleep. At a truck stop motel, I sat down to get something to eat. But there's some kind of pain in each customer's eyes. I prayed for some peace of mind. In the end, I'm holding on to hope. Walking down Faith Street where the debts that I owe. And lost souls, me trying to recapture the feelings we all used to know. Holding on to hope. When you're knocked down, you feel like you lost everything that you own. That's when you find holding on really means letting go. I'm holding on to hope, down on my knees where the seeds that I've sown are planted in concrete, and the sign says that the lot is full. But as I steer around the turn, and I'm holding on to hope, walking down Faith Street where the debts that I owe, and lost souls, me trying to recapture the feelings, trying to recapture the feelings we all used to know. I'm holding on to hope, holding on to hope. Hey, 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 yeah, hey.
Hi everyone, this is Natanya Davis coming to you from another episode of On the Couch with Dr. Davis, right here on Musco Music TV. Today we are joined by special guest, Mr. Jeff Jacob, who is a songwriter, team building facilitator, and also an activist, community activist. Mr. Jacob, that song was amazing. Holding On to Hope.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about where did you get those lyrics? Because it is so, it goes right with what is going on in today's society. Many people are losing hope. And that song has so many powerful messages in it. So that is something that you just wrote recently? Jeff, hold that thought. We'll be right back in about 60 seconds. We got to take a break. See you back in 60.
Hey guys, I'm Cardell Musgrove, and when I'm planning an event, whether it's for my local church or special family event, I don't have time to run around town looking for all the necessary provisions to make my event a success, because I have found 4-Star Poultry and Provision, which is conveniently located at 2180 Northwest 13th Avenue in Miami. So whether you are serving ribs, chicken, steak, or fish, all their meats are so delish. Give 4-Star Poultry and Provision a call today and see what everyone else is raving about.
we're back here having our discussion with Jeff Jacob on mental health and music.
I wrote that about 5 years ago, and I was a songwriter in Nashville for years, but I was already living down here in South Florida. I was actually struggling with depression, which I've struggled with off and on for many years, and I was in a really dark place. I was curled up on my bathroom floor in Delray Beach in an apartment that I was living in, and I had just left a relationship, or it had left me. I'm not sure which. I couldn't even get out the door. I couldn't get out the door for days on end. My dogs saved my life. That morning, my dogs nudged open the bathroom door and came in, and I was curled up in a fetal position. And we went outside, and the sun was shining, and we had a nice walk and a commune with nature and with God. And I came back that afternoon, and then I started working on the song.
I know we asked you here today to talk about how music has healing properties and how music and mental health can go hand in hand, and how music can actually be a treatment for people who have a mental health disorder. So I'd like you to talk a little bit more about your songwriting efforts, and is that something that you initially start out trying to be a songwriter, or was it more of a musician?
I moved to Nashville in my early 20s in the late 90s, and I moved there having played in bands all through college and writing most of the songs for our bands, and someone mentioned to me, hey, you should try Nashville, lad. You think you're a good songwriter, give it a shot. There's that old saying, if you can make it there, you make it anywhere. They're talking about New York, but songwriting is kind of the thing in Nashville, and writing songs with other people, collaborating. So I moved down to Nashville on a wing and a prayer, not knowing anybody, and I was trying to make it as a commercial country and rock songwriter. And I did that for years while also working in marketing in the music industry. As my time in Nashville started to wind down, I started to, just through happenstance, I was dabbling using songwriting as something other than trying to get a song on the radio. And I started volunteering for a nonprofit called the Songs of Love Foundation in New York City. And Songs of Love, as a staff songwriter, what we were doing was we were writing and recording songs that were customized to families who had terminally ill children. Wow. And so these families were, they would fill out a profile sheet at a doctor's office or at a hospital in different places around the country about their child and their struggles, but also about their interests. Little Bobby loves baseball and dogs and pizza and his friends. So we would be assigned a profile, a child, a family, to write a song and record a song about them, and we'd have to get it back to New York within 25 days. And what those songs became were sort of little moments of joy and healing for these families whose kid might be going in for chemotherapy or some other traumatic, experience they were going through. That was my first entree into utilizing music and songwriting as something beyond pure entertainment value. One of the neatest things that came from that experience was we would sometimes, as songwriters, we would get letters back from the families of these kids. Not all the time, but sometimes. And those letters were inevitably something like, Dear Jeff, wanted to let you know that we play your song every time, insert child's name here, every time Janie goes in right before chemotherapy, to give ourselves a moment as a family to have some joy and to just smile or giggle and say it's going to be okay. So those letters were the amazing compensation that we sometimes received as songwriters.
What mental health conditions, can you give me some examples? Because the topic of music and mental health is one that still has a whole lot of information that people don't know. And so with certain what mental health conditions have you seen music be beneficial in helping?
So it's amazing. Music is one of the only universal languages out there, right? We all learned our ABCs to a melody.
Yes. A,
B, C, D, E, F, G, right? We learned it to a melody for a reason, because music actually helps with retention when you're learning new material or difficult material. And as a young little kid, the ABCs were not easy. And as we become big kids in adult bodies, there are a lot of other things that we can learn better if it's attached to music. Music has been proven through scientific research to help dementia patients transcend the gap, that gap in their everyday short-term memory. My father-in-law is a great example. I might have a conversation with him that's the same conversation 4 or 5 times over the course of an hour, and he won't remember that we've had it. But he can sing along with me to a Johnny Cash or a Beatles song from 30 or 40 years ago like that. So dementia is a big one. Autism, and certainly with mental health, specifically substance use disorder, addictions, I've seen music used as an assistance to traditional therapies, evidence-based therapies, with great success in group sessions and group settings.
If a patient per se is wanting to use music as a way to help them with their mental health challenges, would it be them learning a song, writing a song? I guess I'm more interested in the process. Like, what type of things would someone do that's interested in using music as a tool for healing?
So there are different methodologies. Some of my nonprofit work, over the last 10 years or so, when I'm not doing my music things or my music therapy things, I've been a nonprofit executive director, sort of roaming from nonprofit to nonprofit that are going through transitional phases.
Mm-hmm.
So in animal rescue, in mental health, and in faith-based. And I was running a nonprofit called Face the Music Foundation for about 2 years, up until a couple of years ago. And we basically had 3 programs that we used to help people get the treatment they needed for substance use or into recovery after substance use treatment.
Mm-hmm.
We had a program called Grace Notes, which utilized music strictly for entertainment value, musicians in recovery performing music for other marginalized populations just so they could gain the benefit of that music. But the program that really speaks to me with the question you just asked was called Get in Tune, where a songwriter such as myself would team up with a licensed therapist, and we would go into, say, a boys and girls club, and we would maybe do something called lyric analysis with these teenagers. We would listen to and deconstruct certain songs with these kids.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes kids who didn't have a strong family environment, a stable family environment, and get that support. And so we would deconstruct a song by, say, Beyonce, and we'd say, tell us the lyrics that speak to you in this song. Okay, why does that lyric speak to you in this song? How do you relate to that lyric? You know, it might be a song about how someone dresses or how they wear their hair, and how that makes them feel within the context of the society they live. All right, so we're deconstructing a song. It's called lyric analysis, and trying to see how certain songs make someone feel better or make them feel more relatable within a societal situation. Now, we would also, at the end of these programs, do a songwriting process. We would do, after 3 or 4 weeks, a collaborative songwriting piece with these kids and help them unpack the topics that we've been discussing for several weeks and tell their story. So whether or not we're talking about bullying situations they've been in, situations where they feel as though their self-esteem has been challenged, or maybe situations where they couldn't find their own voice in a group setting as much, and how to self-advocate, which is so important in this day and age. And all of that would be done through a songwriting process.
We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, I definitely want to hear your perspective on how music can help some of our veterans who may be suffering from PTSD, because I know a lot of them are watching. So we'll see you back in about 60 seconds.
Hi, I'm Anthony Mayo. I'm a criminal defense attorney and partner at the Traffic Ticket Office. For the past 30 years, our law firm has successfully represented over 2 million people charged with traffic offenses. We have over a 98% success rate in resolving your traffic ticket without any points or conviction on your driving record. In fact, we offer a money-back guarantee. If we don't get your ticket resolved by a dismissal or without points on your record, we give you back your money. Let one of our attorneys go to court for you so you don't have to waste time going to court. We make it very easy. You can call us, email us, or do it online. At the traffic ticket office, the favorite word that we like to hear is case dismissed.
Empty beds where we used to lay, where late at night we'd sit and pray, fields of daisies left unpicked, where we used to play innocence, long, long gone, far in the rear view, where it was slain, now all that's left is a cold, dark room and an empty bed where there used to be you.
Thank you for joining us. We are continuing our discussion with our guest, Mr. Jeff Jacob, about the healing properties of music and how it can be positive on our mental health. So that song was called Empty Beds?
And empty beds, yeah.
Empty Beds. Those lyrics, kind of tell me where you came up with those lyrics from.
Yeah, so you asked me about holding on to hope earlier, and that was 4 or 5 years ago I wrote this. This is, I don't even call this a song yet, it's really more like a musical poem that I've written this week.
Okay.
After this last horrible massacre. And I hate to have to use the word last because it's almost a normal occurrence in our society now, and it touches so many of us. I was watching the news after this shooting in Texas,
Yes.
and the reporters interviewing one of the parents, and I don't remember much of what was said, but I remember the parent mentioning something about going home and looking at an empty bed. And those two words stuck with me. I mean, they stabbed me right to the heart, and they stuck with me. And I started just sort of noodling around on the guitar a little bit. You know, writers and painters, that's what we often do. You know, we hear something in a movie, or read something in a book, or see something on TV, and 2 or 3 words stick with us and hit us in the heart, and we go back and we write it, or we paint it, or we record it, or if you're a dancer, maybe you create a dance routine. And so that just happened this week. And I had to get it out. This was almost about me. I had to squeeze it out of myself for therapeutic purposes for me. Yeah.
There are some parents probably listening to that, and they don't know how to put it in words, and you did it for them. And that alone, just listening to those words, that they just have too much anguish in getting out, is going to be healing for them. So I definitely hope this develops more into a song, but if not, even just the excerpt I heard was powerful. We were talking about music and how it can benefit certain conditions. In your observation, has music helped people who may have some type of combat trauma or been in the military, and how so?
Yeah, so when I was in Nashville, in around 2011, 2012, that's really when I started realizing that songwriting could be something additional for me. And I had started working with the Songs of Love Foundation, as we mentioned earlier. I had also started sort of a side hustle, or a business called the Song Team, where I team up with hit songwriters in Nashville, sometimes Miami, and we go into corporate situations with companies, and through a collaborative songwriting process, whether it's a group of 10 people or 1,000, we write a song about their corporate narrative. So their challenges, their goals, their issues, their new products, services, with their attendees at this meeting or conference. Mm-hmm. So I had been doing this for a few years in a corporate setting, and it was a lot of fun. And a lot of fun because, you go to a meeting, a business meeting, yes, and everyone's used to, we're going to talk about sales goals and spreadsheets, and this is what we're going to do this year, and this is how we're going to get there. A lot of these settings can be pretty dry, right?
Yes.
And so we try to rock it out a little bit and make it fun. And I started realizing there are different ways you can use music in songwriting, and this is one of them. And then that, coupled with Songs of Love Foundation, led me to a conversation in Nashville with some folks who wanted to put together a retreat, a therapeutic retreat for about 20 soldiers, 20 vets from Fort Campbell in Kentucky, just north of Nashville. And these were folks who were in therapy, traditional therapy, evidence-based therapies, who were not making as much progress with unpacking their own traumas, their combat stories, their PTSD stories, as family members and therapists would like to see. So some people I was friendly with came up with the idea of a songwriting retreat. And at this retreat, we would have one songwriter and one therapist and a significant other and the soldier.
Okay.
We took a weekend. We went out into the woods. I would love to say we were intense, because that really sounds like we roughed it. But we were in cabins, which was a little step up. And over the course of a weekend, each of these little groups would write a song, a narrative about that soldier's combat story and story of coming home, and what they were dealing with emotionally, and what was still choking them up, and what was still giving them a hard time trying to get through or get over. And it was an amazing experience. And I would say, at least for me, and I know a lot of my songwriting buddies, for us, it was a transcendent weekend of realizing a lot of us had not used songwriting beyond trying to get a hit song on the radio before. I had started to, but most of the songwriters there had not. So this was a transcendent weekend. At the end of the weekend, we each shared our songs with the group. And these songs were written by the therapist, they were written by the soldier, they were sometimes partially a few words, maybe by a spouse or a brother or sister. And it's tough, for someone who thinks he's pretty good with words and music, it's tough to put the entire experience to words. We wrapped up the weekend a few weeks later with a benefit concert where all of these songs were performed in a concert setting with a full band. A few of them, the soldiers got up and sang with the band. Most of them weren't comfortable doing that. But this was amazing. And we hear back years later, this was around 2014, I still hear back from some of these families and some of these therapists about the progress these soldiers are making. And that weekend was the catalyst for a lot of them to get further along their therapeutic path to healing. So yeah, it was an amazing experience, yeah.
And some veterans listening are going to want to know, how can they get the same experience? So I know that on our break, we were talking about the difference between music therapy and music assisted therapy.
Yeah.
Because you've made it clear, I'm not a music therapist, but
Right.
music assisted therapy seems just as beneficial. And so someone who is interested in that, should they be talking to their therapist about inviting someone like you to a group setting to maybe participate in some of these things that you're sharing with us today?
Yeah, there are more and more addiction treatment organizations, more and more mental health organizations. I mean, addiction is classified as a brain disease these days. It is. I know that there's a lot of talks about what addiction is or isn't.
But it is a disease.
But it is a disease.
Absolutely.
For some people, they acquire the active disease later on.
Yes.
But it's there. More and more of these organizations are looking to music and the arts as supplemental or wraparound services to traditional evidence-based therapies. So there are a lot of resources out there that weren't out there 5-10 years ago. Certainly, I'm happy to talk with people about this.
Okay.
I know a lot of traditional therapists who I've worked with who are happy to use this as an add-on to their traditional therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just difficult to put to words what music can do for people who are struggling to get over that hump. Yeah.
In my opinion, it does more. When you're a therapist and you're talking to someone one-on-one, sometimes you can't break through the resistance. You can't break through the wall that they have up, but somehow it seems as if the music is able to do that. Would you agree?
Yeah, so I was sitting at a Boys and Girls Club about 4 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and we talk. I know these days we also talk a lot about race and inequity and the things that divide us versus the things that unite us. And I was one of 2 white people in the room,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't look like any of the kids. and we were talking about some difficult topics with these kids before we ever got to the music. And the therapist who I was friends with, great guy named Cliff, asked me if I could, break out a song. And so I don't know what was going through all the kids' minds when I broke out this guitar. They probably were thinking, man, this is lame. This guy's gonna play some country music or something. And I was hoping that's the kind of thought that was going through a lot of their. So my first, I hope I remember this. First I was afraid, I was petrified. I started playing Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive, and have a lot of fun with that song. And these kids, most of them knew that song from maybe listening to it at the kitchen table because their mom would sing. Their mom would sing. Mm-hmm. But it's an empowerment song, right? It's a getting through it song. It's I can do this song.
Yes.
And so. It's a powerful thing, and it crosses racial and socioeconomic and age and even language barriers. You can go to a concert that's totally Spanish music, if you don't speak Spanish, but you love the rhythm and the beat and the melody, you can still get the emotionality and gain something from that experience.
Absolutely.
And you will be dancing with the people in the audience, even if they know the words, meanings, and you don't.
And and that experience has happened. Dancing to Latin music, didn't understand lyrics, but had a great time anyway.
Oh yeah.
So, that brings me to another point: the ability of music to unify us, because we're so divided as a community right now, and with all the calamities that have happened recently, and just all the changes going on in today's global society, what do you think people need to do? Just start listening to music? It has the ability for some reason to unify us. And why do you think that is?
Well, the phrase you said a minute ago, do you think we just need to start listening to music? I would say we need to start listening. We start listening first. Mm-hmm. Now, what can get us in the room together a little bit easier? It might be music that gets us in the room together. Mm-hmm. And it might be music that helps us unpack some of the difficult issues that divide us. If we can agree on something first, it might be easier to agree on something second. And that first thing that we might be agreeing on is, well, we all know how to sing along to Stand By Me or I Will Survive or some kind of an empower or a Get Together by the Youngbloods. If we can get past the first disagreement, then we can get to the more substantial disagreement. Music is one of those things, along with other arts, mm-hmm. that brings people together, and so the bringing together is the first difficult step, right? These shootings we've been seeing, I look, every single day in our cities, there are gang shootings and accidental shootings, and suicide by gun is now the most, unfortunately, it's the number one killer of children these days. The shootings, the mass shootings, churches, synagogues, grocery stores.
Anywhere.
The one that was a couple years ago at the big huge concert in Las Vegas. So at that concert there were people from all walks of life there together to enjoy music.
Absolutely.
And that one, for whatever reason, probably for obvious reasons, that one really bothered me because that's one of those last spots, because people have different churches and different synagogues, or maybe they're not really into faith and they hang out with all their friends at the coffee shop. But a music concert, there were people from every race and religion and socioeconomic background at that concert, all being shot at. And man, it made me angry because you're taking away that forum of unity. But yeah, music can bring people together, absolutely.
You did say that you started off in corporate songwriting, and then you've now been able to transition into using music as a healing mechanism. Mm-hmm. So how long would you say you've been able to do that?
I've been using music as a healing tool and a unifying mechanism for about the last decade. And now, my day gig for the last decade has always been in some sort of nonprofit management or another, usually in animal rescue or faith-based or mental health. and music is usually a common thread. You know, if someone says to me, "Hey Jeff, what can we do for a fundraising event or an awareness event for this cause or that cause?" Before too long, it's going to come back to some sort of a music event or a concert, because that's what I know works. Mm-hmm. For other people, it might be, let's put on a dance marathon. I just don't know. But for me, I know music works. I know if it's done well and it's done thoughtfully, then you're going to get people happy. You're going to get them talking. You're going to get them listening, and you're going to shine light on whatever cause it is, whatever social issue it is. And they're probably going to be more likely to hear what you're saying once you've sung a song together.
Your music speaks life and hope, and that's what we need more in today's society. So how do you continue to have hope when there's so many negative things occurring in our society and still be able to uplift people through your music?
Wow, that's a tough question. One of my favorite T-shirts was given. There was a cantor at a synagogue I used to work at. He was a great singer, very, very prayerful, very, very spiritual guy. And he was wearing a T-shirt to work one day, and it said "Faith" in big letters. And below it, it said, "Does not make things easy, but it does make things possible." And I said, wow, I love that T-shirt. Mm-hmm. So a week later, he came in next time I saw him, and he gave me what I thought was his T-shirt. I was really touched. It turned out he had an extra. So he's like, "Don't be so touched. It's just an extra T-shirt I had." So I'm saying this because I don't know if faith comes before hope or hope comes before faith. Chicken and the egg, right? Mm-hmm. But I try to walk in one of those two spots every morning. When I'm out on my morning walk with the dogs and I'm talking to God for a few minutes and appreciating the fresh air and getting my head on straight for the day. And frankly, you know, I'll say this, for someone, as I still struggle with depression, but those mornings when you get out and you start to realize that life goes on and the sun has risen and there's a breeze, mm-hmm. Especially important in South Florida that there's a breeze.
Yes.
You know, it helps you put things in a little bit of perspective, and so every morning that grounds me, and I'm able to face the rest of the day and in some sort of a faith that things are going to be okay. And that faith, I think, is what allows me to have hope that things not only are going to be okay, but that things are actually going to get better. So I hope that somewhat answers the question.
Oh, no, it sounds as if you make sure that you engage in great self-care so that you can continue to help people and help people heal through your music. People are going to want to know how they can get in touch with you. Your songs are powerful. Are you working on more material right now so that you can continue to put this out for people to buy?
So glad you asked. So the first song that we started with today, "Holding On to Hope," mm-hmm. which again was a really personal song. I've been wanting to record that for the last 4 years or so. I met Daniel at Daniel Musgrove Music recently, and I'm recording this song and at least one more with him on a nonprofit project. Mm-hmm. We're working on a video. The song we're going to attach it to a great local nonprofit called Deerfield Beach Community Cares. Okay. And they deal with suicide prevention, which is of course a hot and heavy mental health issue these days, more relevant than ever, more important than ever. Yes. And so in the next few weeks, we'll be done with that song in the video, and we will be releasing it on multiple channels, and it'll be readily available. I'm sure Musgrove Music will be showing it on their channel. I'm sure I'll be promoting it on my website. I have a website at thesongteam.com, which is our corporate songwriting and team building programs. It'll be on that website and on our YouTubes, and so there'll be a lot of different spots where you can catch it. Yeah.
For those therapists or even people who are receiving treatment who are interested in music-assisted therapy, is there a way that their therapist or themselves can they reach you, like for additional information, or do you mentor people who may be wanting to do what you do?
Yes and yes. So people can reach me through the website, thesongteam.com, thesongteam.com. There's just an easy email contact there, and we can discuss any or all of the above if someone shoots me an email. And my phone number is on the website as well too. Yeah.
All right, so I feel like this has definitely been an informative discussion, one that will help a lot of people understand that it isn't always about therapy, talk therapy, is it? That music, different things that we do in our lives can really positively influence our mental health. I do want to thank you today for spending your time coming here to educate us and sharing your artistic ability.
Thank you for
You're
having
more
me.
than just a songwriter to me. You are definitely a musician and artist. And so you're talented, and the musical talent you have has the ability to touch many people's lives. But we are thankful that we had Mr. Jacob in our presence, and I want to thank you for joining us today for On the Couch with Dr. Davis. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me, Doc.
You're welcome.
Let's go!
Yeah. K. Joe.
Nigel Lewis. Papa Soul.